Hi guys.
Hi guys.
So, how did you cope with the heat?
Don't go for that one.
It was really something that we didn't expect, and well, we knew it was going to be hard because we'd been there before. But our main issue was we got Absalon as a sponsor fairly late in the process, and they actually asked us to postpone our trip by a month, and it made about a 10-degree difference to what we practiced, and it wasn't sort of a linear thing. It physically was a lot more draining than what we had. So there were actually times when we really didn't think we were going to manage. We kind of had this constant headache from being dehydrated, but we were rationed on our water and stuff like that. It was really just, I suppose, fortuitous that we got through it before
we ran out. Yeah. I think we also coped with it. I mean, there's no ways to cope with heat. I mean, you just have to deal with it. And I think it was desperate at times. I mean, we were very desperate and very thirsty, more thirsty than I've ever been in my life. Yeah.
So then how did you manage to get the water?
We carried the water. We pulled the water. So we had about, at any given time, about 200 litres we'd start with, and then that would get rationed until we could get to the next well, we had 3 water stops in total. So there were days where we were taking straight, we drink 3 litres a day, and I mean, in 49-degree temperatures, it's madness. We were so desperate at times that, I was thinking of how I could steal water at night while everyone else was sleeping. I mean, stealing a sip, I'm not talking about stealing a bottle of water, but I mean, it was desperate. I mean, you actually have an appreciation for water. I mean, you don't realize, it's not this thirst that you get here. I mean, like, oh, I'm thirsty, I've gone for a run. This is like thirst. Your tongue is swollen, it's hectic.
Jeez, that's insane.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, we actually joked about it sometimes. We said, imagine dying of thirst when you've got 100 litres of water on the cart next to you. But we knew that if we climbed into that, we wouldn't get to where we had to go. So it was just
actually disciplined.
It must have been very difficult to be disciplined. How was it in the beginning? I'm sure you were disciplined. You became more disciplined over the time. But I mean, how was it in the beginning?
It was also your body adapt. So the first week, we just really felt bad the whole time. We had a headache, and then as we kind of got on, by the end of the day, at the end of 35 days, you'd have water left in your bottle. You just didn't need it as much. Your body actually adapts.
Became like a camel. We didn't need as much water. But yeah, I mean, it was the day's right. I mean, initially you felt a lot more. I mean, you were always thirsty though. It never went away, but you wouldn't need it as much. I mean, the last day we had 100 mils of water each, and we did 36 kilometers in that heat on 100 mils of water. So, I mean, it just goes to show how well we had adapted.
And we had, and like even in terms of food, it was so close that we spent our last night camped in a building site on the outskirts of Dubai, because we had to kind of plan it to finish at our point on a particular day and stuff like that. So we planned to get there, and literally our benzene for our stove ran out, our food was out, our water was out, everything was like the night before. It was like,
it was terrible. So it was pretty rough. We did have a pineapple dessert to share between the 2 of us in the morning. That was it.
That was pretty
no food, yeah.
Your cart weighed over 400 kilograms. What was on it? Apart from the water, that was a lot.
The food by itself was about 180 kilos. That was all dehydrated, really high calorie expedition food, pretty much the lightest you can get. And we basically, it was literally 1 kilogram per person per day of nutrition, and it was really just not enough. We I think Marco lost 15 kilos, I was 12.
I could afford it. Bulked up before we went. No, I'm joking. But I think also there wasn't a lot of arbitrary things on the cart at all. It was water, food, and then we had some spares for the cart, so puncture repair kits and some tubes and little odds and ends. And we went with 2 pairs of underpants, 1 pair of shorts, 1 shirt.
People often ask us, well, we had 1 wet wipe each per day. That was kind of
per day. That's
how we stopped getting sick and sores and stuff like that.
And we shared a tent.
Kind of worked out.
It was a lot of fun.
And it was, we had a list. It was like, after 20 days, we changed our underpants and our socks.
Yeah, for the first time. It was actually my birthday, because my birthday was in the desert. That was my present. We got to change our underpants. And we got to drink 2 bottles of water at the end of the day. 2 5 bottles. It was a great present.
And then, what made you decide to do this? Take a cart?
It's a long story. Do you want to?
No, go for it. So,
Obviously, Alex was the third guy. I don't know if you must know Alex Harris. He's climbed Everest and done a whole lot of things. He and I used to race together. I've known him for many years. And it was about 8 years ago, he was sitting on Everest with Sir Randolph Fiennes. And they were chatting, and Alex said to him, well, what's left to do in the world? And he said, well, cross the empty quarter unsupported, it's impossible. And we started chatting and we started playing around with some ideas and things like that. And that's literally why it took us 5 years from when we first did our first desert trip to Namibia to say, well, is there potentially a way to do this? To kind of refine all of these systems and things like that. And in fact, Randolph Fiennes was the patron of this expedition. And we actually had a bit of an ironic moment. We got into the one day where we had a rest thing, and we got some messages on Twitter, and we saw that he'd actually been evacuated from Antarctica while we were out there. There was kind of this whole little sub-story going on.
Wow.
I think also, personally, we all have had our own sort of different personal reasons for wanting to do it, apart from, it was Alex's brainchild, and I think, for me, the message was just about getting through it. Actually doing something that people did say was impossible. It could never be done. And there's a story behind what I do. I'm an ex-drug addict, so just to raise awareness about drug abuse. And that drug addiction is like the journey through the desert. It starts with one step. You can beat it. It just takes diligence and dedication. And, you do it over and over, and eventually you'll get there and you'll overcome it. And I think we all took out our own personal learnings from it. It was a phenomenal experience. It was probably the greatest experience of my life. It was the hardest experience of my life, but I couldn't have done it with better guys anyway. We really were, and Dave said it in the talk. There were never ever any moments of, oh, I hate you. It was just teamwork. There were times when we wouldn't talk because we ran out of things to say. Never anything to say, so we just listened to music. But yeah, I think we all came out of it and came out with some sort of special memory from it.
And this is an amazing experience. So. I'm sure you're craving something like this again. As much as it's difficult, I'm sure you're craving something again. So, do you have any ideas for the future?
Nothing sort of one big thing like that, certainly for myself. I've done quite a lot of sport. I've got a couple of sort of personal goals that I want to try and achieve. And I think, for me, the takeaway from it was that you kind of got to think about these things, set your goals, and realize that some things that you thought maybe wouldn't get to do are actually still possible if we go out and chase them.
I think also from my side, I think just the teamwork itself lends to another expedition, wherein it will be or what it will be, I'm not sure. Probably the first summit on Mount Olympus on Mars. We're just waiting for that little lady spending space to get us to Mars, but. Yeah, I'm sure there will be something in the future. Personally, also, I've got an initiative called the 7 Summit Challenge, so we're carrying on to climb the world's highest peaks. That's also to raise awareness about drug abuse. But yeah, when we train together, and we'll get there. I'm sure there'll be something, because at some point, one of us will come up with a half-brained idea and say, "Hey, nobody's done this," and we'll be like, "There's probably a reason, but let's try it anyway." Let's do it.